Hello and welcome to Spell Valley. My name is Connor, and this is a daily deck where I talk about one set of 5 Spell Valley heroes that I think work really well together. Why the deck is cool. And I want to. This deck actually came out of some rapid games I played against a good friend of mine on the channel earlier this week. And that deck actually looked like this. And the logic was that we have two very fast heroes, the Knight with the speed of 2, and the Elk Archer with the speed of 2, and a Giant who has a lot of health. And these are also the Knight and the Elk Archer. You can see 19 health and 11 health at the max level as well. So these are 3 high health heroes. They're going to run across the board as quickly as they can, try to put pressure on the other side, and then I have a healer to back them up. And that way these heroes can be more willing to enter the line of fire early on in the battle without fear that they're just going to get picked apart by decks that do lots of little bits of damage. And to supplement that, I was like, well, I need one more hero. I like the Assassin. Let me throw in the Assassin. And the Assassin is a cool hero. Don't get me wrong. The Assassin is really all about sort of taking out an individual key target, which makes total sense, if you think about the hero thematically. But he really is not so good at surviving that situation. He can jump in, he can move next to a hero within 2. So he can jump to a hex that's pretty far away and kill a key target. And his attack scaling for a ability that has this little counterplay and is this hard to deal with, he actually has a lot of attack. So he's really good at jumping in and killing key heroes, especially if you're willing to give him a little more attack to work with and play him at a slightly higher level. But to be honest, I don't think this is really this character is really in line with the spirit of the deck. And that's because you want to be with this deck, you want to be winning because these heroes are on top of the key targets, right? And they're already quite a bit across the board and dealing a lot of damage, right? So the Assassin jumping in on turn 3 it's like 4 more damage, and what the Assassin really gives you is the ability to get to the back line, even if you don't necessarily have a lot of heroes that have crossed the board. But in this case, we do have a lot of heroes that have crossed the board, and so it's not obvious that we really need one of these heroes to jump in on the back line. The second problem is that the Assassin is squishy. The Assassin only has 3 health, and the healer has 2 at the low. Now she can get a little more if you play her at a higher level, but it's still not a lot of health to work with. And I found that even in my first game against Cole the other day, you could see that I was having a hard time pushing my heroes forward because I was worried about bandits and rangers running into the back lines. And he was actually able to pull off a move where he used his ranger, that's this hero, to snipe my Assassin and then swap the ranger back with his Knight. And it meant that he was able to kill my Assassin and I was able to do damage to a Knight in response. And I don't want to be so worried about defending my backline. I already have a healer. The healer already needs some defense. And I think the logic is that if someone really wants to run through and just hit the healer, you can set up these heroes such that, whatever hero tries to get to the back lines is going to die in the process. And at best they're going to be trading for the healer, which is probably too slow. That's probably not a great approach for the opponent anyway. But if you have 2 heroes in the back line, now it's a lot harder to walk up because you have a lot more to defend. So anyway, I was looking at the hero pool and I was thinking, well, what's a hero that would make a little more sense in this slot? And in some ways it's not a big adjustment. And that is the Avenger, right? In some ways it's not a big adjustment because the Avenger is also a soldier, is also a hero with, attack, health, and a spell. Neither of these heroes have, they're not fast, they don't charge, they can't move and then attack. They don't have sort of the some of the classic agility traits that that many other heroes like bandits or rangers or what have you might have. They both have a 3 mana cost spell, which is the sort of the centerpiece of the hero. That spell moves them, it displaces them, so that's another important similarity. But whereas the assassin jumps into an empty hex within 2, the Avenger actually swaps places with the hero within this range, and his cast range is part of what scales. So he has cast range on levels 2 and 4, and 2 more attack on levels 3 and 5. And the logic of this is that, well, for one, he has a little more health, he's a little less squishy, he can last a little longer, and that's going to be pretty valuable in a, if there are heroes trying to get to the back lines. And second, on the turns when he's not, when he doesn't have his spell, he has Pierce, right, allowing him to hit multiple heroes in a line. And so it's not quite as, and that means that getting onto the back lines is not just going to be that there's less reward when you get there because he has higher health, but he can also threaten more hexes from the back lines. And that allows him to put extra damage on key hexes and makes it even harder for an enemy to get back there. But still, the most important thing really is the spell. And there's a few reasons why I think this spell and this kind of spell is good with this deck in particular. And that's because this deck doesn't actually want a checkmate spell. It doesn't need a win condition spell. Consider Centaur, right? Centaur, it costs 5 mana or 4 mana, and you stun all adjacent heroes. Centaur's really good. If you get the Centaur stomp off and your deck isn't, and the rest of your team isn't completely destroyed, that's potentially game winning in and of itself. So there are spells that are they just win you the game if you get there. And that's not, this spell can be very good. It has potentially very high upside. But it's not as, it's not as like, whoops, I win, as some spells are. And the reason we don't need a spell like that is because we already have a win condition. We already have a plan. The plan is to take our giant, our knight, and our elk archer, push them up the board so the opponent has nowhere to move, and then start hitting them and overwhelm them with that force. And if they try to, chip you down, use the healer. And so what we really want is just another spell on top that's going to supplement on that key critical turn. The reason why a 3 mana spell is good, and this applies to the assassin as well, is that the giant is a 4 mana spell. And that sounds like it's sort of a silly thing to say. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but giant's a 4 mana spell. And what I mean by that is that by the time he gets across the board, right, it's turn 4. If we just sort of most naively put the giant here, okay, so you played him on the first turn, his first turn on the board, right, which is the first turn you'd be able to use your spell, right, if this was a spell instead, right, he goes 1, 2, 3, and now on your 5th turn, the 4th turn that he was on the board because he got summoned the first turn, he can now attack one of these hexes. And he could have moved here and threatened these hexes, or moved here and threatened these hexes. So you're hitting the line of summoned heroes on turn 4 with your giant, the 4th turn after he's played. And so actually our timing is going to be on that 4th turn. And we don't actually want to be playing Avenger on turn 1 in all likelihood. We probably want to be playing these 2 heroes on turn 1. If we're at turn 1, if we're the first player, we get to play 3 heroes, not all 5, and so we probably want to play our powerful heroes so they can start running across the board, because the whole point is to get them across the board. That's how we win the game. And so actually, if you're playing a hero with a spell on the 2nd turn to follow up, you kind of want it to be a 3 mana spell so that it hits at the same time that your giant hits on turn 4. Okay. That's one of the reasons why I think the 3 mana spell is compelling here, because the timing for the deck, the point at which the deck is really trying to win the game, the critical turn is turn 4. And that's a valuable thing to think about when you think about decks, is like, what turn do I want to win the game on? And not all decks will, some decks are going to win gradually over a long period of time, and it's not quite one turn. But I think this is a deck where we're really trying to run the person over. We're trying to put a lot of pressure on a specific turn, and we're trying to focus that pressure. There will also be games that we win that are grindy because we have a healer, and they don't have a good way to get to the healer, and they just can't trade efficiently because we just keep healing, and maybe we level up the healer for that, and maybe we don't. So that, there are worlds where like the healer is the thing that wins you the game, but still fundamentally it's good to be presenting a powerful attack at a certain point. And then also there's all sorts of tricks you can do with swapping. There's just a million tricks. So the fact that the heroes are up the board already, the knight, the elk archer, the giant, the fact that they're already further up the board, it means that the swap ability is going to be better because you can swap with your allies or you can swap with enemies. So you can imagine getting a knight up the board, the knight attacking, killing a hero, the Avenger swapping with the knight, and him using his pierce to kill a second hero, right? You can also imagine having the Avenger next to the knight or next to the giant, and him swapping with an enemy such that now the enemy is next to the giant, and the giant can attack them. And so the Avenger actually really benefits from having friends that are further up the board. And this is instead of, whereas the assassin, and maybe this is the critical thing to think about. With the assassin, he's really focused on killing one hero. And he does that very consistently. The Avenger is less consistent, but in exchange, the upside is much higher. And so we're hitting much harder on that fourth turn. And the reason for that is that, imagine that the Avenger swaps with an enemy. The enemy is now next to the giant. The giant can kill that enemy, and then the Avenger uses their pierce to kill two squishy heroes, and that's 3 heroes. That would be a game-winning continuation. That's also a best-case scenario. That's not nearly as easy to land as like the big centaur stop, which is, I guess, part of why I made that earlier distinction. But the upside here is significantly higher, and he's just more formidable in the back line, right? Like the thing with the assassin is the assassin pays a heavy price for his consistency. This hero is like really consistent. If it gets to turn 3, a lot of times you're going to be able to take out a key target, and the assassin will. And if the assassin doesn't die in the process, that's really, really strong. And if he does, maybe that's okay. Maybe he did his job anyway. You killed the critical hero that your opponent had, and now you're out. But for that, because it's hard to play against that, and because there's not a lot of counterplay for the opponent, the assassin is just a lot weaker than than heroes with similar but less consistent abilities like the Avenger. Okay, so that's enough blabbing. I'm going to hop into a quick ladder game and show off the deck. See if we get first or second player here. Second player. Okay. Okay, well, they have the assassin. All right, knight, wizard, assassin. And the assassin is actually at a level that they can kill the Avenger. Okay, so this is ironic, right? Because I'm hyping up the Avenger relative to the assassin in this case, but you can see in a different context, like maybe against my deck, the assassin could be pretty good. And we're not going to be able to stop the assassin with the Avenger, right? Because this is a 3-mana spell. The assassin has a 3-mana spell. We have a 3-mana spell. And it's just not, but the assassin is going to get their spell because they're the first player before we do. So what I really want to do is we have to run the elk archer and the knight up the board, and we're going to try to put pressure this way. So I'm going to put the knight here, elk archer here, giant here. We're gonna go like this. And we don't actually need to play the healer yet because none of our heroes are going to take damage this turn. Yeah. Okay. So the last 2 cards are the Axe Sisters and a giant. The Axe Sisters are an annoying card. They have a range of 2 and they cleave, which means they hit these arcs of 3 hexes. So like they could attack here and hit these 3, or they could attack here and hit these 3. Now they're not so damage efficient, which works in our favor, but and the wizard does 10 damage. So we're gonna have a hard, the problem is that we're not gonna be able to get to the assassin, I don't think. Okay, the giant steps up. We're gonna bring in the Avenger, and this is enough, I think, that we can fight here. We don't want to, if we Put the Elk Archer here. Oh, wow. And the... Yeah, okay, okay. We're going to step the Elk Archer up so she can kill the attack either of these heroes. And we're going to step the Knight up, and we're going to say the Wizard has to choose. And now we... Okay. I'm going to put the healer there. Maybe we wanted it closer to the Giant. It's a hard decision because we're spread out like this. It's actually a reason why you maybe don't want to spread out with this sort of deck. Okay. Well, we're definitely going to kill the Wizard. Yeah, which hero do we want to use to kill the Wizard? And is our Knight just dead? Like, if he uses the Assassin on the Knight, maybe we're okay with that. Yeah, I don't want his Assassin to kill our Avenger. Because then quite a bit of our counterplay is gone. Okay, we're gonna shoot like this. Walk up with the Giant. Step back with the Avenger. Go here, here, heal. He's still gonna be able to kill our Avenger now. With the Assassin, yeah, he's gonna jump right in there. Oh! Goes for the Knight instead. I guess it's higher health. Well, I mean, higher level, I mean. But that hero was almost dead. Okay, this is actually looking pretty tough, guys. We kind of need a big, Yeah, they just have a lot of... They have like a beefier deck than we do. Yeah, and so even though the Avenger is actually just not well placed, yeah, so we're gonna retreat here. Nine, yeah, the... Okay. Well, we have to kill the Assassin before he goes again. We're gonna step back the Giant. And this does give us the... Yeah, okay. This is funny. So we're gonna go... We're gonna go like this. And we're gonna step up with the healer so that we can use the Giant and the healer to kill their Giant if they walk here. Oh, definitely heal the Giant. The problem is if the Giant dies, then that's... Yeah, and right now the Giant will die because it's taking 4, 4, 7 damage. So the giant can go here and survive, or here and survive. But here he's dead. Back like this. Oh, maybe I go back like that. Yeah, get the healer out of the way. And we can't let them run up. Yeah, this is a tough situation. Because we lose if we don't... Yeah, we need to hit this tower or else we lose the game. So we have a few turns, but basically we need to run our Elk Archer up the board and hit this tower and not let them deal more damage to us. So Giant is our only hurt hero, so we heal him. We have to take every free shot we can at this point. Step the Giant up. Oh wow, is that okay? Okay. And we can't leave the Elk Archer next to the Knight. So we're gonna step one back actually. And we're gonna threaten this Axe Archer. And we only have 3 turns left. So that's 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think we can do it, guys. Oh. See, as soon as I do that, I realize. Okay. I mean, we're done healing, right? 7 plus 4 is greater than 10. So we're gonna dare them to... They might just hit the archer, but that's fine. We can use our giant. Okay, they take the conservative line. And if we put the Elk Archer here, they don't have enough damage. Yeah, actually nothing can hit the Elk Archer here. So we'll just heal the giant in that case. Step up with the Elk Archer so we're ready to get the final hit on this tower. Yeah, they really needed to work this axe thrower, this axis thrower down here, and hit this tower. Yeah, this game down to the wire. As you can see, their last 2 towers burn. Only this one is left. Use our Elk Archer in the game. With 1 turn to spare. Wow, that was a tough matchup, guys. That was fun. That was a deck that if we look at, you know, what did they have? It was Giant, Axe Sisters, Assassin, Wizard, Knight. That's pretty... Looks like the levels here are misreported. But the thing about this deck is like they're running the Giant and the Knight and the Axe Sisters. So that sort of is a lot like the Giant, the Knight, and the Elk Archer. It's sort of a similar idea, except it's even more... Like, it's just even more damage and even more health there from the Axe Sisters. Because the Axe Sisters they were doing, you know, 4 damage a hit, but there were 2 of them. You know, so that's like pretty threatening. And then the Assassin you saw was threatening the Avenger and the Healer. And the wizard is just a lot more damage. And the fact the wizard is sort of, you know, kind of an immobile hero, right? He can't move or attack. That's okay because it's a lot of space control, and it's especially a lot of space control if you're trying to run up to him with heroes that have effective range of 1, like the giant and the knight. And so that was actually a pretty tough matchup. But I'm glad we were able to pull through in the end with the key elk archer shot. And this actually had similar dynamics to the game I played with my friend, because it had that same sort of entered in like grindy first part of the game, enter end game, where I'm trying to get the elk archer into just the right spot to hit that high health tower. And this was, you know, sort of a different, things maybe didn't go as well that first time around, but it's sort of the same idea and the same end game plan, you know, in both of those games. So this was a daily deck. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate your time and attention. Like, subscribe, go to the Discord. Please download the game. That's the number one thing you can do. Download the game, tell all your friends. And I appreciate your time and attention. Have a good rest of your day.